After explaining the concept of karbanos and how that's an extension of the avoda of waking up from sleeping and finding our good points, the ani yeshena, that although on the outside it looks like we're asleep, v'libi er, we have a holy nekuda inside of us, that point of goodness. So Reb Nosson says this is really the aspect of the Birchas Kriyas Shema as well. Because in Birchas Kriyas Shema we make reference to the creation of the world. And we say, Marabu Masach Hashem, Kula Machachma Asisa. We go through Hamer La'artz, V'Ladarim, Aleh, Barachamim, Ubetuvim, Mechadesh, right? B'chal Yom Tam and Ma'aseh Bereishis. We speak about the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu renews creation each and every morning. And says Reb Nosson, that's connected to the Mishkan. The Mishkan, which we already said, was composed of all the contributions of each and every member of Am Yisrael who was bringing his or her own Nekuda Tova to contribute it to the construction of the Mishkan. That's connected to the creation of the world. Because it says in the Zohar HaKadosh, Tziyura de Mashkana, that the form of the Mishkan, Kitziyura de Uvda de Bereshis, was the form of the creation of the world, of all of nature. And that's reflected also in the Gemara in Brachas, that tells us that in order to create the Mishkan, B'Tzalel needed to know the stringing together of all the letters that were used in the creation of the world. And so these two things parallel each other. So Reb Nosson says when we make reference to the construction of nature, that's a tacit reference to the construction of the Mishkan. And says Reb Nosson, ultimately that's the whole thing of tefillah. Because tefillah says, Ki beisi beis tefillah yikare l'chal ha'amim, the Beis HaMikdash will become a house of prayer for all the nations. And the pasuk continues, Nu'um Hashem Alekim, these are the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is Mekabetz Nidchei Yisrael, who gathers together those members of Am Yisrael who are estranged. Says Reb Nosson, Mekabetz Nidchei Yisrael is an aspect of the collection of the Nekudas Tovos, of those good points within each and every Jew. So when we have the aspect of Mekabetz Nidchei Yisrael, then you have Ki Beisi Beis Tefillah Yikar L'chol Ha'amim. Beisi Beis is an aspect of the Mishkan. Tefillah is the aspect of what we're doing, right, when we daven. And davening is this aspect of building the Mishkan, which is composed of Nu'um Hashem Alekim, Mekabetz Nidchei Yisrael, the gathering together of all of those estranged, lost sparks of Jewishness that are buried, Hayosheves Beganim, sitting among the nations of the world. That's the aspect of the Beis HaMikdash. So Reb Nosson says that's why before we get to the Iker Tefillah, which is Shemona Esrei, we begin with Karbanos, like we already said, because Karbanos is also this concept of taking that good point that was buried, Bechag Ve'asela, B'Seisra Madrega, Ne'elamti Dumia, Hachishesi Mitoiv, that aspect of not being able to speak, that aspect of the animal, the mute, and we bring it up to the human level where we give it voice because it becomes included in our Avodas Hashem. And Reb Nosson says that avodah is presided over by the Kohanim, that the Kohanim are the aspect of Chesed, and that's the aspect of Avram Avinu, the aspect of Yashkim Avram Baboker. So each morning waking up is an aspect of Avram, which is to find the Kadosh Baruch Hu's Chesed, that Hashem is within us all the time. And while it's presided over by the Kohanim, it is accompanied by the singing of the Leviim. Why the singing of the Leviim? Because we already said that this whole process is the process of singing. Azamra l'likai ba'oidi. That by finding that ode ma'at be'in rasha, that little bit extra that a person has, that enables a person to make a song. Azamra l'likai ba'oidi. Because that's exactly what it is to find your Nekudas Tovos. You're picking one note at a time, one piece at a time, one point at a time, and you're composing a melody note after note after note. Says Reb Nosson, therefore it's only very logical and reasonable that this avodah of the karbanos that would be presided over by the Kohanim, who are an aspect of the boiker, of the morning, the boiker, the Avram, that Avram is chesed, and vayashkim Avram ba'boiker, that's the aspect of waking up from the sleep. By finding the Nekudas Tovos, it's only natural that it should also be accompanied by the singing of the Leviim. Because the singing of the Leviim is the aspect of Azamra. Says Reb Nosson, it's the same thing what we do after Karbanos, which is that we have Pesukei de Zimra. That through the avodah of Karbanos, doing this consciously, having in mind this whole metaphysical drama of waking up through finding our Nekudas Taivas, channeling that through Karbanis, says Reb Nosson. Of course, you're going to go ahead and you're going to sing. How are you going to sing? Pesukei de Zimra, which is a song, which is the aspect of Azamra. Azamra lelikai ba'oidi. And says Reb Nosson, through this, ultimately a person comes to Kriya Shema. Kriya Shema is the ultimate yichud. It's called yichudei ilah. It's the ultimate bonding between Am Yisrael and Hashem. How does that happen? The Kabbalah say that there's a halas maya nukvin. There's an elevation of what's called feminine waters, which means in a serusa de lasata, an awakening from below, where we're sort of like attracting Hashem to connect with us by sending up good energy. And there's no better energy that's sent up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu than when a Jew finds his or her Nekuda Taiva. When we're mevarer, when we clarify that Nekuda Taiva, we're lifting it up toward HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that causes the yichud of Kriya Shema. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And that's the aspects, as Reb Nosson, of the Echad that's made reference to in the context of the Mishkan, where it says that Moshe put the Mishkan together, V'hahaya HaMishkan Echad. That through, again, our contribution of all of Am Yisrael bringing their Nekuda Taiva to contribute to the construction of the Mishkan, that also brought about the concept of Yichud, of Echad, which is the same thing that we accomplish in Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, which comes after the Pesukei de Zimra, which is Azamra, which is the result of the Avodah of Karbanos, which is already preempted by waking up in the morning and channeling our holiness into Dibor, moving out of a state of mute, of being incapable of speaking, and channeling it up to the human energy, bringing the karbanos of the animal, the mute, bringing it up into the level of the human, where we have a voice and we can express our goodness. Hashminias koilech. Hashem says, let me hear your voice. Give that holiness inside of you a voice. Reveal it. And that prepares all of Am Yisrael for yichud with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Kriya Shema. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, which is the same thing as V'haya HaMishkan Echad.
Ani habe v'ata ha'av sheli shekol kach ohev oti ha'av sheli melech chai v'kayah al kol neshima she'ani